in digital form. ITS makes it easier for the new generation to access information by providing flexible classes. ITS keeps moving forward in facing future challenges by providing the best facilities for the new generation's activities. The facilities support both spiritual and physical needs. ITS also provides research facilities in the ITS Science Technopark, including ICT and robotics, automotive, maritime, and creative industries. Therefore, the excellent generations from ITS will emerge and make history. ITS is a space for the new generation to express themselves. ITS is a place where the new generation learns new things and finds their purpose. ITS has become a place where the new generations that carry the future will be born.
ITS is a campus of science and technology, which focuses on the research and innovation, presenting technology for prosperity.
With a spirit of heroism, ITS brings the future before us. ITS, the University of Heroes.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we start commence the program, and here are the following webinar protocol. For each participant ID, please use your real name following with your origin of institution. All of participants are expected to mute the audio and only unmute the video during the event. We cordially invite you to take your own firm and comfort seat in your own room, and please avoid the backlight. Make sure that you have a good and stable internet connection. If you have an earphone or headset, we recommend you to use it so that your voice can clearly and loudly to be heard. During the Q&A discussion session, all participants, please use the chat box to deliver the questions. Thank you for your cooperation and consideration.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the guest lecture series on SDGs today, Tuesday, the 27th of April 2021. I am Nur from ITS Global Engagement, and I will be your master of ceremony today. Thank you for joining our guest lecture on SDGs today. Before we start our agenda, let me inform you the important information for today's event. First, please fill out your attendance at bit.ly/attendance_GLS SDGs. Our committee will also send the attendance link in the Zoom chat room. For participants who wish to get an e-certificate and stamp, please fill the attendance no later than 15 minutes after the starts. Second, participants who wish to ask questions during the question and answer session, please send your question to intip.in/Q&A GLS SDGs. This link also will be sent in the Zoom chat room. Alternatively, you can ask directly by clicking the raise hand feature during the Q&A session. Ladies and gentlemen, this guest lecture series on SDGs is dedicated as a form of appreciation in commemorating the 60th anniversary of the Institute Teknologi 10 November, Surabaya. Today's guest lecture brings the theme Servant Leadership for Enhancing Students' Learning and Quality Education. Today's lecture will be delivered by our speakers, the Honorable Associate Professor Kuldip Singh from University Teknologi Mara, Sarawak Branch, and the Honorable Mr. Ahmad Subhi Zolkafly, Master of Science from University Teknologi Mara, Arau, Perlis. Both of today's lecture will be moderated by the Honorable Ms. Dewi Saktia Ardianto from ITS. Before we start our agenda, allow me to deliver the schedule today as follows. First will be the opening. Continuing on to the next agenda will be an introduction of the moderator, and then we will listen to the lecture session by Dr. Singh, followed by the lecture session by Mr. Subhi. After that, we will have a Q&A session, then we will move on to the certificate wording, and lastly will be the closing. Now, before we proceed to the main agenda, let me introduce our moderator today. Our moderator for today is Ms. Dewi Saktia Ardianto, and Ms. Dewi is a lecturer at Department of Business Management in ITS and finished her bachelor and master degree in ITS. Her research interests are operations management, logistics management, and financial accounting. Now, without further ado, let's proceed to the main agenda. To the moderator, Ms. Dewi, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nur Aziza, for the introductions. So it's my honor to be the moderator for our fellow speakers from Malaysia. Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Singh.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Fine, fine.
Thank you. That's great. And then the second one, I would like to say hello to Mr. Subhi. Hello, Mr. Subhi.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, good.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned by the Master of Ceremony, today I will be the moderator for our great speaker, Dr. Singh and Mr. Subhi. So please allow me to introduce our first speaker in a more detail, Dr. Singh. So Associate Professor Kuldip Singh, who was pursuing his bachelor in the Bachelor of Art of History in National University of Malaysia, and he's also got the Diploma of Education at a Batu Lintang Training College, and he's also pursuing his Master of Education in the University of Technology Malaysia. And he got the doctoral of Human Resource Management in Irish International University in Dublin in Ireland. And about his research interests, he has several research interests, which is the servant leadership, corporate social responsibility, knowledge management, management, human capital, public policy, and also service quality. And please allow me to mention his award as well. So he got at 2017, he got a bronze medal for Dutch Budget Research Administration of Business Management System. And also he got a gold medal for the integrated tool for the digital divide. And for today's guest lecture series on sustainable development goals, especially in goals number 4, which is the quality educations, Dr. Singh would like to deliver the topic about the servant leadership for enhancing students' learning. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Singh. So the place is yours.
Okay, thank you, Moderator Dewi Saktia. So let me share the screen for my presentation. Can you see with the PowerPoint?
Yes, it's coming, sir.
Coming, yeah? Okay. So, okay, I think it should be okay. Let me go to the full slide, I think. Enough, I think. Is it enough for you to see? I mean, is it okay? The size of the
Yes, sir.
slide? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So before I begin, I want to thank ITS Surabaya for inviting me to give a guest lecture on servant leadership for enhancing student learning. So this topic is about servant leadership. So I believe that this topic is quite related to the topic of quality education. Because when we talk about quality education, we are talking about the type of student that we produce. You know, the student must not only be good in academic, they also must be good in the soft skill, normally like problem solving, critical thinking, and so on. And another thing about servant leadership is that they must be good in solving problems for their community or for their country and so on. According to one philosopher, he mentioned that if to be a good student, when you graduate, you must be able to solve the social problem of your community. I think just now the video mentioned ITS is emphasizing the community service. So community service also relate to this concept of servant leadership, because servant leadership is about service. So community service is also about service. So I think this servant leadership is very appropriate to carry out this community service in the community. So I think, okay, that's all for the introduction a bit. So I'm a senior lecturer with the Faculty of Administrative Science and Policy Study, University Technology Mara, Sarawak, Malaysia. So we are neighbors. We are in the island of Borneo, nearby only, Borneo Island. I think the other one is in Sumatra and Java and so on. So we are in the island of Borneo. And then good afternoon also to the participant. I think this Miss Remy mentioned we got participants from other countries like Philippines and Europe and US and so on, in Africa or whatever, something like that. So we have participants from many countries today. So I don't know whether it's in the morning or I think in Malaysia here is the afternoon. Maybe in other country is morning. Okay, morning, good morning lah. If at night is good night. Okay. So I will introduce this topic. So I'm doing on servant leadership, how it can enhance the student learning. So this is actually based on the research that I've done in my university, but we will just introduce what is servant leadership. Maybe some of you are not aware of what is this servant leadership. Maybe you are aware of the word leadership. Leadership normally means somebody who can influence people, motivate people, inspire. But servant leadership is a bit different from the normal leadership concept. So servant leadership has significant utility in higher educational institutions where the primary function is the provision of service to develop the people, according to Taylor. So the function of university is to develop the people. So servant leadership is quite relevant here. So this can make servant leadership increasingly relevant in higher education, as servant leadership changes the focus of leadership by stressing the ideal of service in leader-follower relationship, according to when they were then of 2011. So you can see the word here, service. So service very important. Just now I mentioned about community service. And then Nuri mentioned that students viewed most effective university professor as servant leader, whereas those with limited characteristic of servant leader were found to be the least effective instructor. So if you want to be effective lecturer or professor or what, you have to be a servant leader. So for modern educational institutions, servant leadership offers an effective educational leadership and management paradigm with one variable leadership doctrine, that is to serve, then to lead. So the purpose of servant leadership is to serve first and then to lead. So in education, according to Nichols, a teacher has to be a servant leader, is someone who is not just an expert or a classroom manager, but is also a leader within their own classroom, school, and community. So you can see as a servant leader, you also contribute to the community. Not only the teacher, the student also will have to contribute to the community or something like community service. I think nowadays we have another concept of service learning. Okay, that one also something to do with community service. So Satpuya mentioned that in the depth of the principle of servant leadership, that teachers who practice servant leader are interested to facilitate student need and foster problem solving and promote emotional healing. So meaning we are trying to develop the whole student. We look at the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and so on. So we are trying to develop the character of the student. They also serve as role model of servant leadership and influence the student to become servant leaders in their future career. So meaning we are trying to create students who will become servant leaders in the future. Maybe they can become servant leaders in their community, in the country, and so on. So they mean they will try to solve the problems of the country. Yeah? So Murray also stated that the conceptual idea of servant leadership and how to apply the principle of servant leadership can transform learning in a university setting. So if we want to transform learning, we have to use servant leadership, because servant leadership will transform the way the university run and so on, and the student also will get transformed. Everybody actually will get transformed if we practice the principle of servant leadership. And nowadays, everybody want to transform, they want to achieve transformation. Roland and Richard said the servant leadership has shown significant positive relationship with student learning if servant teacher teach the student. Now you can see the correlation between if you are servant leader and how you affect the student teaching and student learning. Okay, so you can see the effect. Actually, my research will also show you the relationship between servant leadership and student learning. So we also high level of student engagement and motivation. The student also will be more engaged in their study. Normally, student can be in the classroom, but they are not really engaged in the study. I think if you are a lecturer, you will know that some of the students are just there in physically, mentally they are somewhere else. The mind is somewhere else. So we need to have total engagement in the study, in the class, and motivation. That is a big issue. Also, some school teachers will say that the students are not motivated, or some lecturers also will say the students are not motivated, and it's not easy to motivate the student. It's quite a difficult job. So if you are a servant leader, you can motivate them, you can get them engaged in their study. So if we can apply the servant leadership teaching, students will feel challenged to learn, supported, and are cared for. So this is very important. Students want challenge in their life. They want to be supported and they want to be cared for. So servant leadership with its healing skill will have positive impact on student learning, as students feel that their input and opinion are taken seriously. So sometimes students will say, I'm just as number only, people don't really respect me, some of the teachers don't care about me, and so on. So that's very important actually. We must show appreciation, we must show caring for our students. Because the student can feel it when you are not caring for them, so they can feel it. So teachers become servant leader when they listen to the student need and empower students to succeed. So we have to be student-centered. We have to listen to what the students are saying, because there's sometimes a lot of problems and so on. Now they are human beings, everybody got problems. Sometimes the lecturer are too occupied with their teaching, they forgot that we are teaching a human being with problems and so on. So servant leaders embody several characteristics that signify each as a servant leader first. These are listening, okay, very important, empathy, we can feel what they feel, healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to the growth of people, and building the community. So actually they build a community of learners and so on. So this is the guy who started the servant leadership concept. So according to him, servant leadership begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve first, and then to inspire to lead. I think it's passed away already, quite old. So but this concept is still there, servant leadership. So it's called Robert Greenleaf. So these are the characteristics just now I was mentioning about the servant leadership, the 10 characteristics of servant leadership. Now I will look at one by one each characteristic. So in order to become a servant leader, you can have this characteristic will make you a servant leader, or servant lecturer, or servant teacher. So the first one is listening. You must seek to understand one's on body, spirit, and mind. You must communicate. Listen to what is being said, not being said, not said. So listen intently to others. You must listen. Some people say we seldom listen. Even I think the student will say the lecturer seldom listen to me and so on. So we want to be in touch with the inner voice we have. So ability to listen to other people. So this is one ability that many people they have less of this. They never listen. They only want to talk. They don't want to listen to what other people are saying. And then the next one, empathy. Servant leaders strive to understand other people's intention and perspective. The most successful servant leaders are those who become skilled, empathic listener. So we must be able to understand what the students are feeling, because student is a human being. They got many emotions inside their mind and so on, inside their body and so on. So we must recognize their feelings and so on. So empathy very important nowadays, especially when we are doing ODL and so on. We must empathize with the student because they can have many problems while doing online learning and so on. Commitment to the growth of people. Believe that people have an instinctive value beyond their tangible contribution as students. So we must develop the student. Just now I mentioned the 4 aspects, cognitive, spiritual, emotional, and so on. So servant leader recognize the tremendous responsibility to do with his or power to nurture the personal, professional, and spiritual growth. So meaning we have to develop the whole student, not just one part only, cognitive and so on. And building community. Servant leaders suggest that true community can be created among those who work for the businesses and so on. So servant leader encourage people to take responsibility for their work and remind them how they can contribute to the success and objective of the organization. So if we build a community, we can cooperate with one another, we can develop the community. Nowadays, everybody is talking about a learners community and so on. Community very important. We are living in a community, so we must help one another. And in servant leadership, we serve the other people, the people in the community. That's why we are servant leader. We serve them. Okay? And then persuasion. Authority leader may tell, so we don't use authority. We must be able to persuade them. Like students, sometimes they don't want to study. So we must be able to convince them to study. Convince rather than coerce them. So when you convince them, then they will study. If you force them, they might learn, but they are not learning anything, Because you cannot force people to do things, You must give them reason why they need to study. Maybe you can tell them about their parents having spent a lot of money to teach, to bring them to the university and pay their university fees and so on. So you see, there's a reason for them to study hard. Foresight. Enable the servant leader to understand the lesson from the past, the reality of the present, and the consequence of future. So we can understand, we can also learn from failure and so on. We can understand what is good, what is not good, so we can plan for the future, meaning we can see the big picture. Awareness of self. That's another thing about servant leadership, is the awareness. You must be aware of yourself. You must know your feeling, your strength, your weaknesses, and you must be aware of the situation. So we must be aware, like now we have COVID-19 situation. So we must be aware what are the challenges in the COVID situation and so on. Maybe the student got many problems and challenges. So remember that we are dealing with a human being, so they got many feelings and challenges and so on. Because sometimes people don't really understand, they are not aware of the situation. So awareness is one of the criteria of a servant leadership. Like nowadays, many programs will ask you to be awareness. Even I think the Buddha also mentioned, be awakened to who you really are, what is you and the situation around you, because everybody is one. We need to help one another. That's what it means by servant leader. We help another person, they will help us, everybody will help one another person, so it will spread. So it's service to the other people. Conceptualize ability to look at the problem from the perspective of one must be beyond. So we know the big picture, so we are able to conceptualize the problem. So we think of the beyond the day-to-day, we think of the long term, the long picture, the big picture, and so on. So like they mentioned, dream great dreams. We can have great dreams. We can dream, we can have vision. Normally nowadays very popular this idea of vision. Okay, we have to have a vision of the future. Like now we have the sustainable development goal is about the vision of the future of the world and so on, what we want to achieve in the future. So as a student, as a lecturer, as a teacher, we also must think about the future of the world, not about ourselves only, about the whole world. Okay? Stewardship, commitment to the serving the need of others, like I told you, it's a service. So holding something in trust for another person. So stewardship, meaning commitment to serve the needs of others. So that's why the servant leadership, we care more about others' needs instead of our own. Actually, to serve is good, to help people who are in need of help. So it's a good thing to do actually, serving the needs of others. Don't be selfish, don't think about yourself, think about other people. Somebody mentioned that if you think about other people, the world will be a much better place to live and so on. Because we are sometimes very selfish, we just think about ourselves only. We don't think about the whole world, the community and so on. Healing relate to the emotional health and wholeness of people, involve supporting them physically. Okay, just now I mentioned physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and so on. We got many, I think, got 3 or 4 dimensions of human life and so on, form and so on. So wholeness, we develop the whole person. Like I mentioned, the student is a whole person, not just academic only. There are other things about him, like I mentioned just now, physical, spiritual, emotional, and so on. So healing. So we try to help the emotional health. Now, emotional very important. Like mentioned, emotional intelligence. Emotional very important, because if you are not emotionally stable, I think quite difficult for you to learn also and so on. So emotional very important. Like I mentioned just now, emotional intelligence very important. Not the what do you call it? Cognitive intelligence, but emotional intelligence very important to be successful in the world and workplace and so on. So this is the characteristic according to the dimension. Time, okay, still got time a bit. Okay, so empathy means understanders, help us to understand. Not awareness means knowing what is going on in the classroom. You are aware of the situation. Has a vision for the future, foresight, and they see the big picture, conceptualizing, committed to the growth, commitment to my learning growth. So you are committed to the learning and growth of your student. Stewardship, doing the right thing in the long term, then the easiest thing. So you have to do something that will benefit the student in the long term. And see community and start to create a shared culture. We create a community of learners. Nowadays, we don't use the word student, they use the word learners. We are all learners in the world. And this is the survey that I've done in my university to prove the relationship between servant leadership and student learning. Okay, so I've used the questionnaire by organization leadership, by love, which consists of 6 dimensions: value people, developing people, building community, developing authenticity, and providing leadership and sales leadership. And student learning was measured by scale developed by Richard and Nolan. They got 3 types of learning: cognitive, affective, and behavior. So the scale I used was 1 to 5. Combo alpha was quite good. So this is some of the sample items. For valuing people, lecturer believing in the student, provide student opportunity for learning and growth. Developing people, lecturers take student development, make student development priority, give freedom to the student to make their own decision. Developing people. Building community, promote open communication, accountability, like displaying authenticity, willing to learn from others, including students. We are willing to learn from the student. You can learn from anywhere, from your student also you can learn. Like the Japanese people, in the organization, they can also learn something from the cleaners and the sweepers in the organization, so they can learn something. And then providing leadership, build student encouragement and affirmation, encourage the student to be a better person. And sharing leadership, lead student by personal influence and does not expect personal recognition, guide to achieve their goal. Okay, so they're basically some of the items from the questionnaire. So I sampled 200 students, 85 diploma degree and 150 diploma students. So the level of servant leadership at 3.80, standard deviation 0.4, student learning was 3.85, standard deviation 0.47. Servant leadership was high and student learning was high. So we found a moderate positive relationship between servant leadership and student learning, 0.577, and P less than 0.01. So higher level of student servant leadership is associated with higher student learning. So all the 6 dimensions of servant leadership have a positive relationship. So this is the correlation. So all are significant. So the key takeaway from the research is that academicians should become servant leaders who listen, encourage, motivate our students, and strive to develop our students' full potential. Because students come with their potential, so we have to strive to develop the full potential of the student. So everybody got potential, so we try to develop the full potential. Because sometimes what happens, some students are not developed their full potential. By doing so, we will develop and inspire our students to be future leader and citizen. That's what the student that we have now can be the future leaders of the community, of the country, and so on. So we are not only emphasize academic excellence, but we also try to give the right values so that they can contribute to the community and keep the environment safe for the future of our planet. So this is what as a teacher, as a lecturer in the university or school, that's what we want to have the student to do as a servant leader if you are a servant leader. Not only for academic, but also have the community and the environment. Ensure students care and serve their community and protect their environment. So this one also connect with the Sustainable Development Goal of environmental, sustainable environment equality. So we have a quality education. So through quality education, we can preserve the environment also. So I think to achieve this Sustainable Development Goal for education very important. Because this student may one day become a future leader of the country or the community. So this is the acronym, see the future. S means you can see the future. E, engage and develop the people. And re-event continuously. Try to improve yourself every time. And then number V, value, result, and relationship. Very important, relationship. And the E, embody the value. That's what it's all about. Values, very, very important. Embody the values. Like, do you value in the environment? If you do value the environment, you will keep it clean. You will not use plastic bags and so on. You as a one person can contribute actually. So these are some of the individuals who are servant leaders. Heb Keller, I think this one is the founder of the airline, West Airline. Over there, Sam Walton, the founder of this Walmart, and Nelson Mandela, who got independent for South Africa. He was in jail for 28 years and he managed to still get independent for South Africa. And Jimmy Carter and Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama now in exile, but he's still hoping that I think he will achieve what he wants. Tibet will one day have a peace. So he's also practicing servant leadership. He forgive people, whoever do them wrong, he forgive them. Okay? And other people, many other, maybe in Indonesia, in Malaysia, and so many countries. Not these are the famous ones, but there are others also. Anybody can be a servant leader actually. So these are some of the companies that practice servant leadership: Marriott, Southwest Airlines, FedEx, Starbucks. Starbucks also very popular. Practice care for the employee and so on. Medtronic, Nestle, TV, and Men's Warehouse. Industries for not-for-profit like St. Relief Center for Servant Leadership, and then we have the government bodies like Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, and Navy also practice. So meaning servant leadership can be practiced in the public sector, not only private sector. And this is one of the book if you want to know how we can use servant leadership in the higher education. Okay, so this guy has written the book and he demonstrates how a bit of creative the use of servant leadership in education, higher education can be used to improve the quality of the university and so on. famous quotation, Nelson Mandela, I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. So he is the servant of the people. That is what servant leadership is actually. Mahatma Gandhi, I'm sure many of you have heard about him also. Mahatma Gandhi from India, in India. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Okay, Mahatma Gandhi. He got independence for India without fighting, Nowadays, we can see many people, many countries fighting with one another, still nothing happening. But this guy managed to get independent without fighting. That is the power of the service leadership. Mother Teresa, okay, the miracle is not why we do this work, but why that we are happy to do it. So she also gave herself for the service of the people in India, Calcutta, and help the poor people and so on. You see, these are people who can make a difference actually, and you also can do it if you follow servant leadership. Max Depre, the first responsibility of the leader is to define the reality. The last is to say thank you. So these are some famous quotation by famous servant leaders, and anybody actually, if you practice that, you can also be a servant leader, Okay. Of course, we remember them because they are part of history. You can be the part of the future history. I think there are many countless number of people in many places in many countries that are also doing the same thing. Sometimes we don't know about them, but they are doing that. Because sometimes the service leadership, we don't want to seek recognition. We just want to do what is the right thing to do. So this is the difference between the traditional leadership and the servant leadership. So for the traditional leadership, the first priority is shareholders. For servant leadership is employee. Okay. Second one, priority for traditional customer. Customer also, but the third one for traditional is employee. But over here, servant, shareholder. So meaning the employee, the people, and the customer are the main priority for servant leaders. Why? Because people, if you treat the people nice, if you treat the employee in the organization very well, I'm sure they're going to treat the customer very well also. And when you treat the customer well, your shareholder price, your shares will go up, your net market value will go up, your market share will go up. So everything starts with the employees. So if you want to apply this to the sustainable development goal, it can be the people. Okay, you give priority to the people. And secondly, you can give priority to the planet or the environment. And lastly, maybe to business. So I see basically it's about people and the environment actually, to achieve sustainable development goals and so on. Okay. So this is the sustainable, altogether we got 17 goals, and I'm doing number 4 here, quality education. Actually, this servant leadership can be applied to all the other sustainable development goal actually, It's just the leadership, because leadership is applied in every places. You can apply in any industry, in any organization. So in conclusion, I would like to say that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is an unprecedented global endeavor that requires transformative leadership and a bold new approach. That means we have to use a new approach, maybe a new leadership approach to achieve our sustainable development goal, or the 17 goals. And then the agenda recognized the critical role of service leadership by global and national leaders to achieve the 17 sustainable development goals. So meaning service leadership or servant leadership is what? Because we have to serve the needs of the people, the country, and the nation. And we require effort to further strengthen leadership practices in developing and developed countries alike, so that we can better serve the people of the world. So basically, this sustainable development goal is for the people of the world. We want to live in a better world, in a safe environment, in a clean environment, and so on. So I believe that it should start from everyone in the school and university being a servant leader to empower a change in the mindset towards service for others. So meaning if you start, because we want to start in the school and university, because this way the young people, once they grow up, they will be the future leader, they will be the future citizen of the country. I believe they can make a difference, because now what we have is how many years ago, 20, 30 years ago, then they are the leader now. But this leader will come, the new leaders will come from this maybe in the schools now or in the universities now, maybe in ITS Surabaya, or maybe in Malaysia or in Indonesia or in other foreign country. So we can develop a servant leader who can transform the world, and achieve the whatever the sustainable development goal, all the 17 goals that we need to achieve to protect. Actually, we are trying to protect our world, actually, because a lot of pollution and so on, and environment problem, climate change and so on happening. I heard it's about, this thing will happen in another 50 years, the real effect will come in 50 years, but we have to plan now. We cannot wait another 50 years. We have to plan now, because the impact we will see in another 50 years. Once we start doing now, the impact is another 20, 30 years, It wouldn't be direct impact now. So, but we have to start somewhere, like the Chinese philosopher said, the journey of 1,000 miles begin with the one step. So this can be the one step to achieve the sustainable development goal through quality education, through the service, through the leadership, servant leadership. I think that's the end of my presentation. And I also would like to share a video. Okay, if you don't mind, I want to share a video that I managed to find that is quite relevant for the students and the schools. Okay, thank you, and thank you for listening. Okay, now I think can I share my video?
Yes, sure.
Okay, I stop this, and I close my presentation. I think I have to remove my handphone, my earphone, or what, to play the video I heard. Try first. Can you hear?
So points us with what makes this program different.
Sorry, Dr. Singh. We haven't seen the video yet.
Okay, servant first. And this new program is teaching young people how to not only serve others, but their community. This was no that.
Most high schools have programs to teach students leadership skills.
Yeah, the Fresno County Office of Education has a new program that is teaching young people how to be servant leaders. And tonight's Education Matters, Juanita Stevenson joins us with what makes this program different. Well, a servant leader is someone who sees themselves as a servant first. And this new program is teaching young people how to not only serve others, but their community. This was no ordinary team building activity. These students from school districts throughout Fresno County were brought together for a purpose.
It was a vision of our superintendent, Jim Uvino, for there to be an opportunity for the youth within this community to have a different perspective in regards to leadership.
To teach these young people the principles of being a servant leader, someone who sees leadership not as a way to gain power, but as an opportunity to serve others, to serve their community.
The purpose of the Servant Leadership Project is to create agents of change on their campuses. We want the students to identify a problem either at their school or in the community and create some solutions to solve that problem.
So first came the team building activities at Scout Island, teaching them to reach outside their comfort zones, work with people they don't know, and learning to not only trust others, but themselves.
Let's go, Alyssa, come on now, you're almost there.
Throughout the course of a year, they would attend workshops. They met with and were mentored by leaders in the community.
That's another thing that happens in college.
They were given a charge.
You can take what you have, your God-given talent,
and now take it into your community and make a difference.
1 year later, we visited a group of students from Coalinga High School who were among the first to graduate from the Servant Leadership Academy. How did it change them?
Well, I was very, very shy. Like, I was afraid to like stand up in the class or like even raise my hand to like speak up. And after that program, I'm like more out there, more outgoing.
It's really showed me that I'm worth something, because I mean, before I wouldn't really think much about what I would want to do.
You can see the difference. This group works together like a well-oiled machine. They are confident and not afraid to speak up, not afraid to follow their dreams.
After the program, it showed me that what I wanted to do was important, that I should achieve it.
For now, they are working on their first school-wide project, planning a barbecue, hoping to get more parents to turn out for a back-to-school night. They want their parents involved in their school life.
The difference the parents can make is like bringing their children's self-esteem higher so that they can believe on themselves. And because like, yeah, the teachers are great and everything, but sometimes we need a little extra push to like be better students and stuff.
As seniors at Coalinga High, their thoughts are about college, the next step in their lives. Leadership teacher Sharon Arce says the fact that they are planning a future shows the kind of impact the Leadership Academy had on them.
A lot of these students were not ready to go out there and face the world, to face the challenges that were going on. They had a lot of fear about that. And now with that instilled self-confidence, the growth that they've made, they're ready to go out and tackle the world. And that can only bring good things to a community.
Now, many of the young people who completed the program say that after college, they want to come back to their communities and find a way to serve.
And that says a lot, actually.
It sure does.
Yeah.
They really appreciate everything that
They're not thinking about themselves anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's a nice trait in a young person.
It is.
Isn't it though?
Sounds like you guys have children who've been around.
Speaking of
Yeah.
true parents.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll be right back. Great story. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think that's the end of the video. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Singh, for delivering a very interesting topic, especially in the servant leadership. So we got new insight about how the servant leadership is enhancing the students' learning in the today situation, especially in the pandemic situation as well. So to the participants, should you have any questions, you can just drop your questions to the link provided by the committee, or you can directly type your question in the chat box, and I will deliver or read your questions at the end of these sessions. Well, now let's move to the second speaker of our today's guest lecture series. So I would like to invite Mr. Ahmad Subhi Zolkafly from the University of Technology Mara in Arau, Perlis. So yeah, actually Dr. Singh and Mr. Subhi are coming from the same university, right? University Technology Mara, but
yes, yeah.
Okay, but Dr. Singh are in Sarawak.
Sarawak, yeah.
Next to Borneo. Okay, and then Mr. Subhi are in Arau, in Perlis.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Subhi got his diploma in computer science from University Technology Mara, and he also pursued his Bachelor of Computer Science in the same university, in University Technology Mara. And he was graduated from the master degree, and now is pursuing his PhD in University of Utara, Malaysia. So in the same field, in the information technology. So the ICT knowledge that Mr. Subhi has are are the application software he can use the Microsoft Office, Adobe Photoshop, CS4, Adobe Dreamweaver, and so on. And it's also mastering in a programming, for example, PHP, Java, XML, etc. And also with the database, some of database software such as Oracle, Microsoft Access, SQL, and MySQL. His expertise is on information technology or computer science. And for today's lectures, Mr. Subhi would like to deliver the topic about the quality education, because now he's in the SDG, the guest lecture series in SDGs, especially in the goals number 4. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so I'd like to invite Mr. Subhi. The time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thank you, Miss Devi Saktia Ardianto, the moderator of today's event, from 10 November Institute of Technology. Associate Professor Dr. Kuldip Singh, my fellow lecturer from University Technology Mara Sarawak campus, and also the participants of guest lecture series on Sustainable Development Goals event. Thank you, ITS Surabaya, for having me as a speaker today. The title of my sharing is Quality Education, a very broad title that we can have a discussion on that. However, I would like to share with the members on the floor about my experience on open and distant learning, ODL, during pandemic COVID-19 outbreaks, especially in Malaysia. Right? Okay, let me share my screen first. Right, so can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right, before we start, I would like to share about my background. As we know that I am a lecturer from UiTM Arau campus, and also a part-timers lecturer, UiTM Shah Alam. So having me to teach in full-time in Arau and part-time in Shah Alam. All right, and I'm also a lecturer for professional and continuing education space, University Utara Malaysia. Okay, so this also for PJJ, or we call it as part-timers also that enroll with the University Utara Malaysia. All right. On top of that, I also an assistant principal of Bank Rakyat Student Residential Hall, University Utara Malaysia, and now I continue my journey to finish my doctorate in information technology. Hope that please pray for me that I can finish my journey soon. All right. Okay. So when organization contact me to share about the quality education, I begin to think, what is quality education? Because as you know, my area of expertise is in IT. And then one of my colleagues, when I have a discussion with her, she suggests that I share what is my experience during open and distant learning in the pandemic COVID-19 outbreaks in Malaysia. All right. So, recent study found that the concept of quality education is very difficult to define. Yeah, for sure. So by defining a quality in education, highlight several domains and dimension. That is learner, environment, content, process, and also outcomes. There are a lot of theories that are defining quality education. For example, the social cognitive learning theory, humanist theory, constructivism theory, and so forth. However, today I will not debating on those kind of theory, but sharing my experience with all of you in this recent year especially during pandemic COVID-19. All right, before we start, what is actually a quality education? Quality from the 4th edition of Malaysia Dictionary stated that quality is the degree of excellence that is usually high. However, Cambridge Dictionary stated that quality is how good or bad something is, whereas education, based on Cambridge Dictionary, is the process of teaching or learning, especially in a school or college, but education also can be gained from home. However, based on the 4th edition of Malaysian Dictionary, education is the art of trying to acquire knowledge or some skills, sharing knowledge, or undergoing training. So, in summary, a quality education is a degree of excellence or how good or bad the art of acquiring knowledge, skills, training by certain process, especially in schools, college, or home. This requires a people, an organization, and also a process between them. Handayani Kias and Lamhot Naibaho state that quality education is an absolute prerequisite for the progress of a country, both at the regional, national, and especially international level. Ladies and gentlemen, so as we know, pandemic COVID-19 outbreak started at March 2020, and this pandemic has affected all countries around the globe. A lot of difficulties faced by the developed and developing country to face this issue. And one of the most affected sector is education. Schools and higher institutions needs to be closed in order to prevent this outbreak. So in Malaysia, when government announced to close the schools and higher institutions as a preventive measurement, teacher and lecturer felt very difficult to conduct the classes. However, we as an educator need to think ways in order for the student to finish their syllabus and result an abundance of workload faced by students to learn and finish it, right? So, because of that, Singtema 2020 in her research stated that the level of academic performance is likely to drop for the class held for both year-end examination and internal examination due to reduced contact hour for learners and lack of consultation with teachers or educators when facing difficulty in learning or understanding, right? Why this problem happened? Some of the highlighted issues are students receive a minimum supervision from receive a minimum supervision and guidance as the class conducted, and class only conducted using a screen. All right. So student tends to have a very cozy environment, as they can have a class in any place without need to prepare physically and mentally. As I speak, I believe some of you are practicing it now. Am I right? Right? So as we can see that a lot of participants switch off their camera and maybe having this lecture session in some place, maybe at kitchen and so forth. Maybe in this webinar, all right? So you join this this event in your comfort bed, and some of you are doing another thing like cooking, maybe gardening, yeah. So you have multiple tasks that you do, right? This is the reality. Students from primary to higher learners tend to do something without paying a full attention towards the course or event. With the switch off camera reason that I mentioned earlier, many students join this lecture session or class, but they doing something else. All right. So if this continually happens, how can the student give a full attention or commitment towards the classes or lecture session that given by the educators? In addition, some students express that they have to attend to their ailing family members and take them to the hospital. For example, by evening when they are back home, it becomes very tired and difficult for them to keep abreast with the lesson. On top of that, whose children are in lower grades feel that it would be better to let the children repeat for the next academic year. So we didn't have any unsupportive parents. The parents seems like to have a very not supportive on what are facing by the students. And at the end, how many percent can we categorize it as a quality education? Right, ladies and gentlemen, and the problem arises is majority of students do not have access to a smartphone or TV at home, and in addition to poor internet connectivity, there is no or less income for a huge population due to closure of business and office. So the data package is comparatively high against average income earned, and continuous access to internet is costly because for the farming community. So online face-to-face classes, when you switch on the video, is encouraged by most. However, some students economically disadvantaged and has expressed that face-to-face online classes consumes more data package. The teachers are in dilemma to whom to listen to and which tool to adopt. Something pre-recorded videos could help, however, this will restrict interaction between teachers and students. All right. It is difficult also to design a proper system to fit the learning needs and convenience of all students. Rural area facing this difficulty as the most, as they have a very limited access to the internet, and as a result, they cannot join the class or miss some important point. To add some more, there are students who own a very low specification of the device. And I, as an IT lecturer, somehow face these difficulties when the students need to install a high-spec application. So from my experience, actually, students face this as one of the challenges, and I also face this is also one of the challenge that I need to cater on. All right. For example, because I teach data mining, for example, we have a lab session. So in a lab session, how can I, as an educator, teach them to coding or develop a very full complete system by using a screen sharing only. So because their device cannot cope up with the application. So this is also one of my challenges to make sure all of them not being left behind for the subject. Ladies and gentlemen, so as an educator, we have a solution here. All right. So we as an educator need to make class as interesting as we can, because by doing that, the students will really have an interesting topic, or they want to have an engagement with us. So many of higher learning education carried out several events to train their educators. right? For example, one of the event carried out is Padlet classes. As we know, Padlet is a very useful to share notes and ease of use and understand by students, right? So in addition, the educator also learned to make a quiz, right, in an interesting ways by quizzes, Kahoot, and many more. They need to blend with the environment, as they know students tend to lose their focus during lecture session if they did not have any interesting interaction with them. One of the experience that I have during my artificial intelligence class, right? So in my AI class, students will be nominated to sing a song, right, before the class start, and I tend to call for their name. Is that a mental torture? Somehow, maybe some of you think that is a mental torture for student. Student need to think, student need to join the class, and then when we as an educator nominate or call for their name and they need to sing a song, so maybe someone think that is a mental torture, but and maybe some of the educators think that I am the cruelest lecturer ever, right? But it turned out very interesting. Why? Because we have an happy ending for the class. Okay, what is the reason behind that? The reason is students will stay focused and alert, as they did not want to be a victim in front of their friends. For sure, I just use the word victims, but this is not a victim. It's only for education purpose only. For sure, this requires a skill from the lecturer to conduct the class in an interesting way. And I would like to share some of the recorded video of my class. So if you can see.
We cannot see the video yet, sir.
Oh, you cannot see the figure? Right, wait for a while. Okay, can you see it?
And no, it's not coming yet. So it's back to the not in the slideshow side.
All right. So actually, it's okay. I will share it after my lecture session.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So this is one of the I want to show a video that I've recorded during my lecture session when the students sing a song and they are very positive. They take it as a positive things because of what? Because of they think that this is one of the interesting class ever for them. Other lecture session or other class, they didn't have this kind of craziest lecturer ever. So because of that, they are really want to join my class and never miss my class. All right. So this is why I did this kind of things to attract them to join my lecture, because artificial intelligence is one of the quite a difficult subject compared to other subjects. So I need to have an interesting session with them. All right. All right. To make the education as a quality as face-to-face interaction, educators had to think and create an interesting lecture session. So they need to learn on how to record their lecture points and put some effort to make it interesting. They need to learn using up-to-date technologies. For example, we have a YouTube, we have a Webex, we have a Zoom, and we also have a TikToks. And I'm sure that a lot of participants have a TikTok account, right? And many more to make this pre-recorded lecture session interesting, right? So for Generation Y educators like me, all right, because of I'm doing research on somehow generation, so this Generation Y educators, this may be at their fingertips, but can you imagine the educators from Generation X, or maybe from a baby boomers that needs to learn a very new technology in order to make this pre-recorded lecture session interesting. All right, this is one of the challenges for them, but it's not a constraint because I believe that all of them can make it a very interesting pre-recorded session. All right. Next is asynchronous and synchronous education. It must be balanced. Why? Because asynchronous is a pre-recorded, while synchronous is a live teaching. So it must be balanced between these two kind of education. All right. One of the effort from UITM that UITM has developed a system called massive open online courses. I'm not sure in ITS whether you have this kind of MOOC, massive open online courses or not. I'm not sure because I didn't study on that kind that university environment. But this MOOC actually for the students to access the syllabus. All right. This is a synchronous platform for students to access the lecture material if they cannot catch up or face an internet connection issues during the class. One of the factors for quality education also is an examination. So as we know, all right. So as we know, examination has become a hot discussion between lecturers and educators. During pandemic COVID-19, all examination is conducted via online or open test. However, we cannot control the examination because students tend to plagiate. We have a plagiarism issues and so forth from the outside sources. They usually copy and paste from several websites while answering the question. And also, they have a chit-chatting in their group. We have a WhatsApp or Telegram. So chit-chatting, question number 1, what is the answer? Question number 2, what is the answer? And etc. etc. Right? So from this phenomena, how can we produce a very quality students? So as I said, guys, as a participant, you know who you are and you know if you are practicing it or not, right? A preventive measurement taken by most of the institution, but still some students they tend to have what we call they tend to manipulate with the system. They can manipulate with the system, right? So because of that, some institutions demanding on students to return to campus for examination purpose, and some of them require a student to switch on camera concept, all right, while doing the examination, right? So in a nutshell, quality education must be supported by several parties. Both students and educators must play a vital role in order to contribute for a quality education. Institutions also must review their policy and reduce some of lecturer burdens with outside tasks. As we know, lecturer nowadays have a lot of tasks. Rather than only teaching, they also have outside tasks for administrative and etc. etc. Right? So when they have this kind of task, we cannot focus in teaching and assist students to achieve a quality education. All right, so I want to share several activities during my session, my lecture session with previous class. First thing is a peer review evaluation. This is what I do. Okay, this is what I do with my previous students. So this is a peer-to-peer evaluation. This is a group. There will be a group who will be a present, and in that presentation, we will have an invited panel. So invited panel is from the other group, all right, to join their presentation, who enroll the same course because of they know the same course, so they will give an evaluation based on what they know and what they think is right for them, right? And vice versa. So for example, class for physics, for example, will have a presentation, and the invited panel is from biology class, and vice versa. When it comes to biology presentation, then we will have physics as an invited panel, right? So this panel will give a marks based on student performance. They will evaluate their peer, right? They will evaluate, they will review, they will ask a question, and they will comment, and they will try to make it very interesting. And for sure, when you as a presentation team, in a presentation team, you will be prepared well, because of you know that your friends or your friends who enroll at the same course will try to attack you with the questions and etc. Right? All right. Okay. Next is a negative, hence constructive critique session. All right. So this group of students will have their own team. For example, this team is from a teacher's team, and one team from ministry teams. I just name. I just give the role for them to be in their role and answer or attack their what we call their friends, right? So what make this session interesting, regardless how perfect their presentation is, there must be a hiccup or something that make I call it as a negative netizen. All right, this group I call it as a negative netizen. All right, so it will felt unsatisfied, and then it will throw a lot of questions, and then this negative netizen will give a very negative and also a constructive evaluation. Even you eat while walk. That is a very minimal error, or we didn't put that into a very critical things, but they as a negative netizen review the video, and they will critics, and you have to give why you do something like that, right? Okay, and then the presenter need to justify, all right? So they need to justify anything based on the evaluation. And then what makes this presentation interesting is when you, for example, and Ustazah team, we know that the Ustazah is a very positive one. We want to throw a negative comments. So you need to learn how to critique in a manners way, right? So this activity had gives some insightful views to the presenters that what they do, or they must have a justification, and at the same time it can produce a good student who can take a negative and turn it into a positive ways, right? I also have two. I'm not sure if, okay, I'm trying my best. Can you see? No?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Still?
Kami meja.
Not yet, eh? So I think I will share at the end of my lecture session. All right. Okay. All right, so before I end, I would like to share some of the Holy Quran phrases from Surah An-Nahl regarding quality education. A phrase from 68 to 69 that stated, "Your Lord had inspired the bee, saying, set up hive in the mountains and in the trees and in the trellises that people put up. Then eat all fruits, that is flowers, and fly, wander around in the ways of your Lord that he commanded. There comes forth out of their bellies a fluid, that is a honey of varying color, in which there is a healing for mankind. Most surely there is a verse of proof in this for people who reflect." Sadaqallahul Azim. From the verse, the lexical meaning of the Arabic word wahi or wahyu is a secret inspiration which is felt only by the one who inspires and the other who is inspired with. The Quran has used this word for both for the instinctive inspiration by Allah, by Lord to his creation in general, and for the revelation towards his prophet in particular. From this verse, also we know that when you do well, take something that is good from surrounding, and lastly, it will result good things. The same is true. The same goes to the birds that learns to fly, for the fish that learns to swim, the newly born child that learns to submit, and etc. Then it is also a wahi or wahyu with which Allah inspire a human being with a spontaneous idea. Surah Al-Qasas verse 7. It is same with the education. When you want your very best for your education, at the same time, you will produce a good result afterwards. And for sure, it contributes to a quality education. It is a reflection on good deeds, similarly with the topic discussed today. I end my lecture with an inspirational words, all right, from Buya Hamka. I'm sure that Indonesian very familiar with this figure, with this person, right? Indonesian and Malaysian, all right. So let me quote this in Bahasa, all right. He said that kehidupan itu laksana lautan. Orang yang tiada berhati-hati dalam mengayuh perahu, memegang kemudi dan menjaga layar, maka karamlah ia digulung oleh ombak dan gelombang, hilang di tengah samudra yang luas, tiada akan tercapai olehnya tanah tepi. Jangan takut jatuh kerana yang tidak memanjatlah yang tidak pernah jatuh. Jangan takut gagal kerana yang tidak pernah gagal hanyalah orang-orang yang tidak pernah melangkah. Jangan takut salah kerana dengan kesalahan yang pertama, kita dapat menambah pengetahuan untuk mencari jalan benar pada langkah yang kedua. In English, alright, what Buya Hamka said is, life is like an ocean. People who are not careful in paddling the boat, holding the rudder and guarding the sail, then the boat will sink, rolled by the wave, lost in the middle of a vast ocean. Nothing will be reached by him of the edge land. Do not be afraid to fall, because the one who never climbs is the one who never falls. Do not be afraid to fail, because those who never fail are only those who never start, who never step. Do not be afraid of a wrong, because with the first mistake, we can acknowledge to find the right path in the second step. So with these inspirational quotes, I end my discussion on quality education today. Thank you all for listening. Before that, I think I would like to share some of my what we call session, previously session with members of the floor. All right, first thing first. Okay, this is the group presentation that actually, can you see this?
Yes, we can see the folder.
You can see the folder, but the what we call the something, the video.
We just heard the voice, but we cannot see the video yet. Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe you can open the video first and share directly the video.
I think on sharing with members of the floor what am I doing for my. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So can you see it?
Yes, it works now.
This is one of the video of my students. Right. So this is a
trial version.
What we call when they having.
Yuris pun ada present part tu dan lagi satu part makan berdiri tu. Maksudnya tak sopan lah. Sebab talent-talent dalam tu pakaian dah cukup sopan sangat. Saya suka sangat. sebab pakai kain, tudung tutup dada, baju longgak. Saya suka sangat pakaian
This is the critic
pakaian
session,
terlin lembu sebab
right?
sopan. Cumanya itulah makan berdiri, makan baring. Macam mana tu?
Saya dari pihak KPT pun bersetuju sebab macam okey, bagi menjawab soalan. Okey, saya keluar dulu. Okey, bagi menjawab soalan kenapa talent dalam tu makan berdiri ya. Okey, sebenarnya sebenarnya memang betul kan aku salah daripada pihak produksi kami sebab kan ialah semasa talent tu makan sambil baring. Sebenarnya dia bukan dia yang nak makan tapi dia disupport. Masa tu kan dia tengah main game.
Right, so this is the critic session when a presenter need to defend themselves why they do like this and why they do like that. So it's quite a negative critic session actually, but they tend to turn this negativity into positivity. So that is the thing that I want my students to adapt with, because as we know nowadays we have a lot of challenges from outside, and what do you do, it will reflect back to you. So that's why I conduct this kind of session, because I need them to develop inside and also outside, right? All right. Okay, and one more is I would like to share. Right. Okay, so this is the artificial intelligence classes. During this class, everybody need to sing a song. Okay.
Ku coba meminta kasihmu, biar menjadi ikatan abadi. Namun apa daya, selerai janji kita, mungkin tak diang.
Sorry ya, orang akan melihat itu dengan mata, dengan nada.
Selerai janji kita, mungkin tak diang meminta. Dengar musik ini kita bersama menyembahkan cinta, tak mungkin kasih ku hilang, ku putih hati untukmu. Kumpulkan kenangan indah, simpanlah sendang gurauan, andainya kau kerinduan, itulah janji penawar. Tunggu ku terharu dan bingung, kasihku semai kau abaikan. Putusnya ikatan cinta, mungkin tiada jodoh kita.
Alright, so that is one of the recorded version of my class. Why I do a lot of things that can interact students, because surprisingly, when I do something like that, they really want to join my class, and they come early. They will join early just to hear their friends sing a song. So this is an interesting way to attract students in order for them to come early in the class, regardless of internet connectivity, regardless of the problems that I've highlighted before. So they come, they tend to join my class, and they are very happy to join my class. Even my class is quite a stressful class. So this is the challenges for educators, right? we need to have something that are more interesting ways to attract students, because class with a screen is a very difference from face to face. Face to face, we know we can have an interaction with them, but with the screen, they switch off their camera and they will tend to do something that we can't control that, right? So I think with all of that, I end my discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Subhi, for the very interesting insight for maybe both of us as an educator, also for the student as well, about how to build the most engagement, with, whether synchronously or asynchronously, by considering some constraint that may apply for this circumstance that we face nowadays during the pandemic sessions. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Mr. Subhi, don't forget to drop down your questions in the link provided by the committee. Well, now actually we have received some questions from the participants through the link. So I'd like to read the question first for Dr. Singh. So the first question is coming from Rico Tetuko from Department of Electrical Engineering ITS. He asks, as an academician, lecturer can be a leader, can be a servant leader, so they can listen and give motivations to the students. And now, how, if we as the students who still in learning process, to be a servant leaders? So how to prepare the students to be a servant leaders in the future? Dr. Singh.
Okay, so that is a very good question. How to be a servant leader? So basically, to be a servant leader, you have to have some of the characteristic of the servant leader. Just now I mentioned one of them is listening skill. So you have to improve your listening skill. You have to listen more to your friends and to your other colleagues and so on. Second one, you must be more empathic to your student or to your colleague and so on. So meaning to say you can understand, you can feel what other people, your student feel or your colleague feel. So empathy is very important. So another skill is you need to be able to do this healing. You know, you need to understand the emotion, the emotional healing. You must develop, or your, even if it's your friends, you must be able to know why are they feeling like that? What is the reason behind them? So that's why we can do emotional healing, because sometimes your friend or your student, they are more to the emotional, you know, they are very emotional. And sometimes we are not very good at that, you know. So we just think that the student is doing something wrong or what, or your friend is angry or what, but behind the anger, there is an emotion. So if we can understand the emotion, we will be more sympathetic to what the student or your friend is saying. So these are another one is like developing or community. So you as a student and with other students, you can set up your own community among your students or your friends and so on. So you also can become a servant leader. And normally you must try to serve the people inside your group or your community. You don't think about yourself, you know, you must think about them, what you can do to, like people say, how can I help you? How can I help you inside your community? So you have to develop this couple of these skills. I mean, if you can have all the 10 skills, it's good. But if you can have 50% or so, it should be okay. Also, you are on the way to become a servant leader. Okay, so basically it means you have to practice the skills of the servant leader. Okay, I hope that answered the question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Singh. So to prepare you to become a servant leader, you can start by practicing all the skills that may be beneficial for the future. For example, the listening skill, the empathy, healing, and some other skills that mentioned by Dr. Singh before. Okay, thank you. And then for the second questions, Dr. Singh, we have questions from Hana Raselia from Urban and Regional Planning ITS. So she asked Dr. Singh, what do you think of the lectures that say your score doesn't matter, yet your hard work does? But somehow, when the students have a low score, the lecturer started to say mean or bad things to the students, not directly, or even sometimes directly to the students. So do you think this is just a part of the lecture trying to motivate the students to work even more harder? Or it's just a plain wrong? And also, what are the possible solutions for this kind of thing? Dr. Singh?
Yeah, okay. So normally, sometimes in school, if the student don't do a good, the grade is low or what, then we try to scold the student. Normally, that's what the teacher do or any lecturer. I think in my university, also got lecturers do that, they scold the student, that is normal. But actually, something is wrong with the lecturer. Why is scolding the student? He should understand what's the reason behind that. Come on, every student are smart enough. As long as they enter university, they are smart, they have the intelligence. You see, the problem is sometimes they have other problem, that interfere with the study. If you show understanding to the student, I'm sure they will improve their performance. Like this guy, this lady from this book, A Growth Mindset, it's a book written by this lecturer, Growth Mindset, meaning we have to concentrate on what the student potential, we don't, sometimes the student, it's not depend on your smartness, it depend on your effort. How much of effort you put into your study will determine your grade. So that's why I say I think students will feel very bad, if you scold them, the grades will go down again some more because you are scolding them, So you have to motivate them. You have to be, positive. I normally don't blame the student. I think it's something wrong with the lecturer. Why she cannot handle her emotion? That's what I mean. Her emotions she's not able to handle. She's not able to see the big picture actually, She just seeing that small thing and then something trigger inside her to make him or her to make angry, to become angry. So basically you need to improve your emotions, actually if you improve your emotion, like just now I mentioned, empathy. If you're empathetic to the situation, you will not get angry with the student. You will try to motivate. You will try to find out what's wrong. I'm sure the student got some problem. So once you find out, like we send in the university, we send to the counselor, the counselor will try to find out what's wrong with the student. Actually, we as a lecturer also can be counselor. We can find out, we talk to them. All you need to do is talk to the student, you can find the answer. And listen to them, what they want to say. I believe every student is good student. They have the potential to be very good student. Okay, I hope that answered the question.
I couldn't agree more with you actually, Dr. Singh, but it's supposed to be in a educator view or the lecturer view. And how about in a student point of view, when they are in these positions?
Then meaning to say, then they have to also, that's why I say we also need to teach the student about emotional healing and how to overcome problem, how to think positive. Because the students sometimes are stressed, they also need to be taught how to handle the stress. Normally, the best is like maybe positive thinking. Some people say positive. You must think about positive. Don't think about negative thing. Everything is positive. Actually, how you think about it is the one that make a difference. Actually, if you think negatively, it become negative. If you think positively, it become positive. It's all your thinking, your mindset. Actually, you must have the growth mindset. You must say, I can improve. You can improve. You say you improve. Okay, I hope that's the answer. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. So just keep your positive thinking. Okay, Ms. Hannah, hope it answered your questions. And then the next questions is, actually it's both for Dr. Singh and also Mr. Subhi as well. So the following question is coming from Ms. Kania Mustika Ariana from the Architecture Department of ITS. So she's asking, in developed country, to be specific in Indonesia, the curriculum mainly is about reaching a certain level of academical knowledge, since the main aim of education system is to create human resource that is qualified to compete with the people all over the world. Yet, one of the main issue within the youth of Indonesia is the lack of moral and attitude, especially in online interactions that we face nowadays. And also lack of honesty, for example, cheating on the test, corruptions, maybe corruption of the time. So it seems like we are missing the point of educations. in our system. But I also understand that we cannot just copy the system of other developed country like Japan and Finland, because the difference in a lot of social aspect and conditions. So I would like to know your thoughts on this matter for Dr. Singh and Mr. Subhi. So who will give
Okay.
your
Maybe I start first. Okay.
Okay, please, Dr. Singh.
I think yeah, it's true. We have, I mean, just now the mention of the attitude. We have a problem with. I mean, some people, some students have problem with attitude. Actually, when you want to apply for job also, they will look at your attitude. Actually, qualification is secondary. Primary is your attitude. Do you have the right attitude? And secondly, they look at your character. What type of person you are, your personality and your character. Because these things, attitude and personality go together. If you are good character, your attitude is also good. So in the world of employment, these things are very, very important. Attitude and your character. Because that's what they look at. Qualification, everybody more or less got the same qualification, So they're looking at the extra thing that you can bring to the organization. And just now somebody mentioned about Finland, Finland is a very well-known country with a very good education system, and the students are getting very good marks in science and mathematics and so on. Actually, in Sarawak, we have a group of people from Sarawak went to Finland to study the system there, Why the system very good in Finland, but actually, that thing cannot be implemented in Malaysia or in Indonesia or where, the culture of these Finland people are not the same, It's not like our culture in Asian country, So that's why Finland, they only study, I think, how many hours per day only, and the rest of the time they have activities and so on. And the teachers who become the teacher are the people with the highest qualification, The highest qualification become the teacher. Like in Southeast Asia country, Malaysia, Indonesia, the best student will become the doctor, lawyer, engineer, and so on, But in Finland, it's different. The culture is different in Finland, And they are more to quality of life, more to quality of life. In Asian country, we still want to get a job and so on, So that's why it's not easy to copy the culture, the system in Finland to Malaysia or Indonesia system. So I believe that our education system is quite good because we focus on the character building, and what do you call it? Values, we emphasize values, integrity and honesty and so on. I think in Malaysia, we have this subject also in the school, pendidik, moral education, where we teach the student what is the right thing to do and so on. Moral education. So I believe it's true that attitude and character are more important. But actually, the purpose of university is not to find a job. Actually, is to learn. Actually, the purpose of university is to learn. Not to create to get a job and all that. That's the secondary purpose. The primary purpose is to learn. The first university in Athens and Greek, they were started for knowledge. Actually, knowledge sharing, knowledge learning, and all that. Because last time in the 16th century, nobody want to find a job and so on. They learn for knowledge sake. But now we are more commercialized. We want to get a degree and to get a job. And we forget the important thing, learning, Okay, so I think that's my opinion on that.
Thank you very much for the thought, Dr. Singh. And yeah, the next will be from Mr. Subhi, please.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Madam Moderator. All right. It's a good question actually. When it becomes a lack of moral and attitude, because of we as educators nowadays during this pandemic area face these challenges. All right, because when we have a test or examination, then students tend to copy and paste without rephrase. If the student rephrase, then we are okay with that. So we can have that as a point from the students, but they copy and paste one by one. So this is one of the attitude. We can't compare with Japan. Okay, we can't compare with a developed country because for me, when I was there before, from the primary to higher students, they have very high in the moral, and they also have a lot of what we call maybe the education system itself. I'm not put a blame on education system, but maybe education system in the developing country is still we have a lack on something to add a moral and attitude for the students, because we as we know the developing country, we are Malaysia, for example, followed a British system, for example, and then one maybe on Indonesia follow a UK system or whatnot. All right. So we tend to follow the one that they are penjajah, or we call it we follow them. We follow their style, their education. Once our kita punya what we call while kita punya budaya is a very different with them. So how can we can contribute, or we can cope with their education system? So because of that, we fail in a lot of things, right? So that's why I think on education from the primary schools, maybe from the first early education, students need to be taught on how to increase the moral. Let's say something that when you receive something, I'm sure that a lot of students, or a lot of participants, or a lot of people didn't say a thank you. A thank you is a very short, a very simple word, but we just, oh, it's okay, that's your job. So we don't have this kind of attitude. So going back to the point, I think the education system, we need to maybe revise a lot of things on education system in order for us to increase the level of moral and attitude of the students. Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Subhi. So yeah, the character building for the students actually could be one considerations to increase our quality of education system, maybe in Indonesia or in Malaysia as well. Thank you. And then the next questions is for Mr. Subhi. So there is a question from Arif Fajariandi from ITS. He asked, in my opinion, distance learning cannot support all subjects areas, especially in engineering, because it requires a practice. So what do you think about this? So maybe you have some suggestions or solutions about this matter. And this question is also followed by Mr. Ahmad Barik Al-Fahri. So he's also asking about how to increase the students' practical skills, the hard skills. Yeah, since online learning mostly focus on the theoretical skills. Okay, Mr. Subhi, please.
All right. So the first question is about what? Can you repeat that question again?
Okay, the first one is the distance learning cannot support all subject area, especially in engineering, because in engineering things, it requires a practical things. So do you have any suggestions about this?
All right. Actually, when we have what we call online or open distance learning, and not a face-to-face interaction with the students, it's a very challenging for us, for both parties, for educators and also for students. And on top of that, actually, I as a lecturer in my area in IT or computer science also face the same difficulties, but maybe students need to before the class start, they need to what we call they need to revise something the course the subject first, and then they need to have an active interaction with the lecturer, right? And yes, because of in engineering practice make perfect, maybe they need to draw something. For example, they need to draw something. So how can you learn about drawing in an online platform? But that is the challenges, all right? Because we can't do some. We cannot simply change this kind of issues. All right. That's why there are institution in Malaysia. They give permission for students to return back to the campus. All right. So in Malaysia, right? Because of in the special needs, if I'm not mistaken, there are 6 special needs that can allow students to return to the campus, and the faculty also actually can discuss and maybe give permission for the students to return to the campus, because this online education is a very difficult. Okay. So when they can come to the campus, we know that we have a face-to-face interaction, and we will have a class just like before. Okay, right? So maybe this is the solution that I can suggest for Indonesia. I'm not sure the Indonesia policy, the Ministry of Higher Education give permission for students to return to the campus or not. I'm not sure about that. But in Malaysia, there are some subject, certain subject that allow the students and permit them to come back to the campus, right?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Subhi. Yeah, some department in ITS also allow the students, some of the students, not all of the students, some of the students, especially in the final year students. For example, they need to do the thesis, the final projects that needs to go to doing the experimental things in the laboratory. So they allow them to come to campus to finalize their thesis. And okay. Well, I believe this is the last question. So for Dr. Singh.
There's one more thing I want to say.
Okay.
I heard online, I heard swimming lesson can be done online. You know, there's a place where they're doing online swimming classes. You know? If online swimming can be done, I think engineering also can be done online.
Maybe Dr. Kuldip, and swimming can be done online with a high tech, so we can do we have a camera inside the water or something that they can have how to swim. All right, maybe
that's what I heard. Online swimming can be done online also.
Yeah, I want to enroll to that course exactly, if it's possible. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's the challenge that we face today actually, and I believe it's not only in ITS but in all over the university in the world as well. Well, so we are already in the end of the last questions here for Dr. Singh from Fari Muhammad from Industrial and System Engineering of ITS. He would like to ask, what do you think about the students that did not appreciate and respect towards the lectures? In addition, nowadays, the children generally got a worse attitude even to their own parents. So while in the lecturer point of view, actually, they already serve the best in order to deliver the message and the theory to the students. So what do you think, Dr. Singh?
Okay, so what he's trying to say is that the student are very disrespectful for towards the lecturer. So actually, the student, you must use a bit of psychology. The student, they are testing you actually. That's what they're doing. They are trying to portray something inside that they don't like. So once if you don't react to them, they will go back to normal. They are trying to test this student. They are very smart. They try to test you. They want to see how you react. So you don't give a reaction. If you don't give a reaction, they will in the end they will give up. So it's psychology, a bit of the student began psychology. You use a bit of psychology or reverse psychology or so on. In education, we do study about educational psychology. So it's very suitable if you learn about psychology a bit. Why the human mind think like that and all that. It's all the emotion inside their body, giving all this negative. I heard that even people, I heard even people got all this abuse and all that. In the end, they also can become a good person actually. When they start to forgive the people, maybe they're angry with their father or mother or what. So you see the forgiveness will be there. If you forgive people for hurting you and so on, you will become a better person. It's all about forgiveness. Okay, I think that's the problem here. But we try to, don't try to react negatively to that type of behavior. It will fuel it more, become the same behavior. Okay, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's back to the moral value that must be embedded as early as possible to our education system. So yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Singh, and also Mr. Subhi for a very interesting discussions that you deliver for us today in this guest lecture series in the Sustainable Development Goal sessions. So I'm so honored to be your moderator for today's. And then for the next sessions, let me pass back the microphone to the Master of Ceremony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Dr. Singh and Mr. Subhi for the excellent lectures today. And also thank you as well to Ms. Dewi for moderating this insightful session. Okay, please give applause to our speakers and moderator by using the Zoom reaction feature. Okay. Furthermore, we would like to present a certificate awarding to one of our speakers and also our moderator today. Okay, so this is the certificate for Associate Professor Kuldip Singh as the speaker for today's guest lecture. Thank you very much, Dr. Kuldip Singh. And then this is the certificate presented for Mr. Ahmad Subhi Zolkafly, Master of Science, as the speaker for today's guest lecture. Thank you very much, Mr. Subhi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on, this is the certificate presented for Ms. Dewi Saktiardianto as the moderator.
Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you very much for our speakers for your availability on today's guest lecture series. Okay, moving on. Before we end our lecture today, we invite you all participants as well as the honorable speakers and moderator to take a group photo. To all participants, maybe you can start turning on your camera. Okay, here I see 4 slides. Okay, I will wait for a little while for all of you to open your camera. Okay, I will start capturing my screen. Okay, for the first slide, 3, 2, 1. For the next slide, 3, 2, 1. Okay, second to the last, and the last slide. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Now we have finished the group photo. And then for the participants, please fill the feedback form through the link bit.ly/feedback GLS that you can also see on the Zoom chat room. And the deadline for filling the feedback form is 1 hour after we finish this session. We want to remind you, the participant who will get the stamp for it, for ITS students, is the participant who come on time, join this event until the end, and also fill the feedback form. Tomorrow, we will have another guest lecture. The lecture will be presented by Professor Viviano Villarreal Buiron from Universidad de Monterrey and Professor Vincentius from ITS. Okay, and it is moderated by Ms. Novi from ITS, and the topic will be related to SDGs number 9, Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure, specifically mass operations in Asia and Latin America, and local material architecture. Finally, we have reached the end of today's guest lecture, and we sincerely apologize for any mistakes we may have made in presenting as Master of Ceremony and the committee. Thank you very much to the speakers, moderator, and all participants for the cooperation. I, Nur as MC, bids farewell. Good evening, and we will see you again tomorrow at the GLS. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prof.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Professor
you.
Kuldip Singh and
Yeah,
Professor
thank
Ahmad
you.
Subhi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hope we can continue our collaboration.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you so much for Professor Singh and also Mr. Subhi, Mr. Subhi, and also the participant. Allow me to end the session at 3, 2, 1. See you in the next guest lecture, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much also Bu Dewi as the moderator to the sessions.
You're welcome.
Terima kasih Bu Dewi.
To end the session, and also to Pak. Thank you all.